Then we are trying to solve an equation. And as we're trying to solve these rational equations, we're going to be looking for a least common denominator. To find a least common denominator, to be looking for factors of the denominators here. This first one right here. Do you guys know how to factor that? Good job. This is a difference of squares, so a plus 6 and a minus 6. If I'm looking at my other denominators, can I factor this one? Not really, no. This one, also no. So the only thing that I was able to factor was that first one that I factored in pink. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to see if I can find a least common denominator. My least common denominator for this is going to need to have everything that all the denominators have in them. And if you're looking closely, you'll notice that an a plus 6 is in a couple of them. So I'm going to need an a plus 6 in my least common denominator, and an a minus 6 is in a couple of them. So I'm going to need that in my least common denominator as well. Hi, what's up?
Hey, can I have 2 students take a quiz in here?
Sure, back row is available.
It's a partner quiz.
Sure.
So they should just whisper.
Maybe you should sit by the window so you can see because the lights are off.
I like that.
Over there, that corner by the cabinet.
Thank you for not disturbing our class.
All right, so we are going to go through every single one of these problems, each of the terms, and multiply everything by an a plus 6 and an a minus 6. So this first one gets an a plus 6 and an a minus 6. This second one gets an a plus 6 and an a minus 6. Couldn't write that going normal direction, so I went up to the right. And this last one gets an a plus 6 and an a minus 6. I had to stack those because they wouldn't fit. All right, the cool thing about multiplying by a least common denominator is that we are going to end up canceling out all the denominators in all of the problems. Okay, go ahead and put that up. You can watch the video tonight or get it at lunch detention. Okay, so we have an a plus 6 here, which cancels out with the a plus 6 that was up top. We have an a minus 6 in the denominator here, which cancels out with the a minus 6 that was up top. And we have an a minus 6 and an a plus 6 that will both cancel out in that first one. So now I can rewrite this in a less horribly messy way. The only thing that's left in my first term is an a. Everything else has been simplified because I was able to find factors up top and in the denominator that simplified. In the second one, I've still got a 2 from right here, and I've got the a plus 6 from right here. Everything else is canceled out. On the other side of the equals, I have this 1, and I have this a minus 6. So 1 times a minus 6 for that one. Okay, so I'm not quite done simplifying yet. All I have to do now, though, is solve a really easy equation. I'm going to distribute anything that's outside parentheses, combine my like terms, and get the a alone. So in that first step while I was talking, I distributed the 2 to everything. Any questions about how I did that? So distribute, yeah. And now I'm going to find my like terms. So I have a 3a plus 12 equals an a minus 6. I need to get all my a's to one side of this equation and kick the numbers to the other side. Lexi?
You take the a, like you minus it.
Good.
On the other side, and then you take the 12 away and put it on the other side.
Awesome. So subtract a here and here.
Yeah.
And you also said to subtract 12?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do all that in one step. And I'm going to get here, I'll have a 2a. Here I'll have a 0. Here I'll have a 0. And here I'll have a negative 18. So my last step after Lexi's help, we divide both sides by 2. And we get that a equals negative 9 for this problem. So a equals negative 9. And that is an answer choice. It's D on this paper. You'll have to look at your paper to see what yours is. All right, Diego, questions? Okay. Number 12. This one was hopefully a little bit easier for you, so a lot more people probably got this one right than the others. And just a reminder, when you are doing these problems, sometimes you can just plug in the answers if they're multiple choice and see if they work or not. So when you're solving equations on a multiple choice test, plug in the answers if you're not sure how to solve it and see if they work. If they work, that's an answer. If they don't work, it's not. So multiple choice, there's always a backup plan if you forget what you're doing. In this one, who remembers how we solved it? Diego, take the hat off, please. Good job. Okay, so we are going to multiply, we call it cross multiplying, the bottom of one fraction times the top of another. So I get 4 times x plus 4. And then I'm going to multiply the bottom of the other fraction by the bottom of the first one, or top of the first one, sorry. And I get this. And from there, we just distribute like we did on the last problem, get all the x's on one side, the numbers on the other, and solve for x. So this is what I'm coming up with when I distribute. Just be careful with your negative signs. And then to move all the x's to one side, which side should I move the x's to, the left or the right? Left? Okay, that's most people's favorite. So I'll move all the x's to the left, and that'll give me a 6x plus 16 equals a negative 6. And then I need to move all of my numbers. Minus 16, good job guys, thanks for helping. Minus 16 on both sides, grab your calculator if you need it. But we get a 6x equals negative 22. All right. And finally, I'm going to divide both sides by 6. It's 11 over 3. So I'm going to have that negative sign still, negative 11 over 3. It didn't end up working out very pretty, but it's still the right answer, and it is on your answer sheet. Yeah, that's about all you could do. Do the decimal, you're right.
Are these answers going to be on like Blackboard, like going over?
The videos are, yes, but you have to write them down for your test corrections. Okay, number 13. This one, like the last one, we can solve by cross multiplying. But this time, for those of you who need to write this one down, Jasmine, did you get this one right?
I got that one right.
You got this one right? Diego did. See if you can. Okay, so let's go ahead and get those test corrections done so you don't have to do them later.
Can I get a tutor?
I can try to find one, but the most important thing is going to be making sure that you're making a good use of your class time. Because otherwise you're going to have to spend double the time outside of class. Okay, so everybody who missed this one's busy writing this down on a separate sheet of paper so you don't have to redo it later. For this problem, because I had binomials, I've got to do what we call FOIL here. Some of you like using the box method, which is perfectly fine. We've got to multiply 4 times. So I'm going to have a negative 5g for that time, a negative 2g for this time, and a positive 10. And then over here, that's a g squared. Anthony, I need you to put your phone up, okay?
Can I go to the bathroom?
Not right now.
It's kind of important.
Could you finish this problem first? The problem that we're working on right now. It is on your sheet. It's on your test. Okay. As soon as you're done with this, I'll let you go. I'll write you a pass. Okay, so now I've got all this, kind of a mess there, but I do have some like terms that I can combine right here. So I get g squared minus 7g plus 10. And right here, I get g squared minus 4g minus 32. Now, I got to get all the variables on one side. So do you guys see what's going to happen with that g squared? It's going to cancel out. The g squared is going to be gone because when I subtract g squared from itself, there's no more g squared. So I just have negative 7g plus 10 equals negative 4g minus 32. And from here, I need to get all the g's on one side and get all the numbers on the other side. So do you guys still want to move them over to the left, Colin? Yeah, just add, what did you say? 4g? Sure, I like that. All right, so we're adding 4g to both sides. We get negative 32 over here, and this is a negative 3. And then, since I've got all the g's on the left, I'm going to move the 10 to the right. And I'll get negative 3g equals negative 20, nope, negative 42. That was almost bad. And my final step is to divide. What do I get when I divide both sides by negative 3? Good job. So g equals positive 14. All right. So that brings us to number 14. We're going to do 14 and 15, and then we're going to go. All right, I'm going to take a break. Please extend. In this problem, again, if you're not sure how to do it, you can always plug in the answers and see if they work. If you know you guessed, you might want to write down this work just in case you see this on the retest and you can't guess next time. Danya?
Can you hear my test?
I thought I gave it to you.
No, you never read it. So you didn't.
So we need to make sure that this is the only thing on one side because we can't do anything about that exponent until that happens. So what two things need to happen in order for that exponent stuff to be the only thing on one side? We'll need to divide by 4, and we'll also need to add 5. Good job. So which of those do we do first usually? Add the 5 or divide by the 4? Normally we do addition before we do division. So we're going to add 5 to both sides. And we're going to get 64 equals 4 times 3 minus x times 4/3. Try to keep up with your stuff, dude. This happens a lot these days.
Yeah.
Okay, next step. Next thing you guys said we needed to divide, so I'm going to do that now. Here's the cool thing about dividing. You only have to divide this number out front here. The parentheses protect everything else. We don't do anything with that. So we have the parentheses with the 3 minus x raised to the 4/3 power. And what is 64 divided by 4? Say a little bit higher than 8. 16. So we end up with 16 there. Now we have to get rid of this exponent. Who remembers how we did that before? Y'all are really good at this. You raise it to the reciprocal, which would be 3/4. So I'm going to raise this side to the 3/4 power, and I'm going to do the same on this side. Now the tricky thing about doing that is not putting in your calculator, because y'all can do 16 raised to the 3/4 power in your calculator. Your calculator will tell you that this is equal to 8. What it will not tell you is that you need to do this as a plus or minus. And the reason we have to do this as a plus or minus is because the denominator of that fraction exponent is a 4. I'm just going to crack it so he doesn't have to knock. If you have any even number when you're doing these fraction exponents, then you have to do plus or minus. If that were a 2, it'd be a square root, we'd do a plus or minus. If it were a 6, it'd be a 6th root, we'd do a plus or minus. If it's a 3, that's odd, we don't do plus or minus. So plus or minus anytime we have those evens on the bottom. This is number 14 on my form, but it's somewhere else on other tests, so you can check those. Okay, so this is what I end up with, which means I've got 2 equations to solve. 3 minus x equals positive 8, and 3 minus x equals negative 8. Both of those could be possible. So in each of them, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Subtract 3 there, subtract 3 here. I get a 5 and a negative 11. But then I don't want negative x equals, I want positive x equals. So I'm going to... here?
No, in the equation, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have x, positive x equals negative 5, and positive x equals positive 11. Now, sometimes you can end up with things that don't actually work, but both of these answers do work. If you check them, they'll both work in your equation. So that finishes up number 14. We just have one left. How'd y'all do on 15? Good? That one wasn't a trouble problem for most people? Okay, so those of you who got, sorry, Kadian, what's up? Hold on, just a second, Danya. Yes, I'll do number 15. Danya, real quick, otherwise this will be in the video, okay? All right. In number 15, what's the first step? Those of you who got this right. Bailey? You add 7 to both sides. So when we add 7 to both sides, we're going to get the square root of x plus 10 equals, over here we have a 2. So negative 5 plus 7 is 2. What do we do after that? Bailey got the first step for us. What's next? Diego? What'd you say? You use the parentheses and you put a little 2 up there. Good. So squaring and square roots are inverses of each other, so they cancel each other out. I just get a x plus 10 equals 4. And Brianna, what's the last step? Subtract 10. So I'm going to do x equals negative 6. All right, so we put that back into the equation. We get the square root of 4, which is 2, and 2 minus 7 is negative 5. So that works great.